As the water shapes itself to the vessel that contains it, so a wise man adapts himself to circumstances. The man who moves a mountain begins by carrying away small stones. Every house guest brings you happiness, some when they arrive and some when they are leaving. The more you know yourself, the more you forgive yourself. The will to win, the desire to succeed, the urge to reach your full potential, these are the keys that will unlock the door to personal excellence. Wherever you go, go with all your heart. When it is obvious that the goals cannot be reached, don't adjust the goals, adjust the action steps. Choose a job you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. If you make a mistake and do not correct it, this is called a mistake. Of course you want to be rich and famous. It's natural. Wealth and fame are what every man desires. The question is, what are you willing to trade for it? Do not worry if others do not understand you. Instead, worry if you do not understand others. Don't let your past determine your destiny. The noble-minded are calm and steady. Little people are forever fussing and fretting. Expect much from yourself and little from others, and you will avoid incurring resentments. A wise man has dignity without pride. A fool has pride without dignity. The gentleman calls attention to the good points in others. He does not call attention to their defects. The small man does just the reverse of this. The archer who misses his mark does not blame the target. He stops, corrects himself, and shoots again. Don't curse the darkness. Light a candle. Knowledge without practice is useless. Practice without knowledge is dangerous. I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. What the superior man seeks is in himself. What the small man seeks is in others. Remember, even when alone, that the divine is everywhere. Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. To know your faults and be able to change is the greatest virtue. We are so busy doing the urgent that we don't have time to do the important. Humility is the solid foundation of all virtues. You judge yourself by what you think you can achieve. Others judge you by what have achieved. Teachers open the door, you enter by yourself. Those who cannot forgive others break the bridge over which they themselves must pass. Be in harmony, yet be different. Don't worry if people don't recognize your merits. Worry that you may not recognize theirs. Your eyes are always bigger than your stomach. All people are the same, only their habits differ. There are 1,000 lessons in defeat, but only one in victory. You can cheat an honest man, but not make a fool out of him. The man who says he can and the man who says he cannot are both correct. A superior man is modest in his speech, but exceeds in his actions. When anger rises, think of the consequences. Everything has beauty, but not everyone sees it. To be wronged is nothing unless you continue to remember it. The gods cannot help those who do not seize opportunities. There is one word which may serve as a rule of practice for all one's life: reciprocity. Give a bowl of rice to a man and you will feed him for a day. Teach him how to grow his own rice and you will save his life. He who knows all the answers has not been asked all the questions. A man who lacks reliability is utterly useless. An orchid in a deep forest sends out its fragrance even if no one is around to appreciate it. Study the past if you want to define the future. Those who do not study are only cattle dressed up in men's clothes. What you do not want done to yourself, do not do to others. Roads were made for journeys, not destinations. The virtuous man is driven by responsibility. The non-virtuous man is driven by profit. To see and listen to the wicked is already the beginning of wickedness. He who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. Before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. Rather than caring about whether or not you are known, strive to be worth knowing. When I am with others, they are my teachers. I can select their good points and follow them, and select their bad points and avoid them. An image is better than 1,000 words. Better a diamond with a flaw than a pebble without. Respect yourself and others will respect you. The perfecting of oneself is the fundamental base of all progress and all moral development. To be wealthy and honored in an unjust society is a disgrace. Study the past if you would divine the future. If you try to do too much, you will not achieve anything. You must find time for reading or surrender yourself to self-chosen ignorance. Being strong does not mean that you never fall down, but that whenever you fall, you get up again. A lion chased me up a tree, and I greatly enjoyed the view from the top. To know is to know that you know nothing. That is the meaning of true knowledge. He who fails to prepare, prepares to fail. Do not answer the person whose questions are vile. Do not question a person whose answers are vile. The chase of gain is rich in hate. When you are laboring for others, let it be with the same zeal as if it were for yourself. The superior person is calm and composed. The lesser person is continuously worried and distressed. Let our reason, and not our senses, be the rule of our conduct, for reason will teach us to think wisely, to speak prudently, and to behave worthily. Reading without thinking will confuse you. Thinking without reading will place you in danger. Big head, target for enemy. Big heart, target for friend. The more man meditates upon good thoughts, the better will be his world, and the world at large. A workman who wants to do his work well must first prepare his tools. To take what you know for what you know, and what you do not know for what you do not know, that is knowledge indeed. Silence is a true friend who never betrays. Faced with what is right, to leave it undone shows a lack of courage. The superior person is in harmony, but does not follow the crowd. The lesser person follows the crowd, but is not in harmony. A man who does not think and plan long ahead will find trouble right at his door. When young, beware of fighting. When strong, beware of sex. And when old, beware of possession. The great man is sparing in words, but prodigal in deeds. The superior man loves his soul. The inferior man loves his property. Exemplary persons are steadfast in the face of adversity, while petty persons are engulfed by it. Education breeds confidence. Confidence breeds hope. Hope breeds peace. In a country well governed, poverty is something to be ashamed of. In a country badly governed, wealth is something to be ashamed of. It is better not to proceed at all than to proceed without purpose. Every journey starts with a single step. If you yourself desire establishment, then help others to get establishment. If you yourself want success, then help others to attain success. A fool despises good counsel, but a wise man takes it to heart. By gaining the people, the kingdom is gained. By losing the people, the kingdom is lost. When words lose their meaning, people lose their liberty. To know what is the right thing to do and not do it is the greatest cowardice. The superior man understands what is right. The inferior man understands what will sell. Happiness is not at the top of the mountain, but in how to climb. The contrived language and the flattering attitude rarely come with the virtue. The beginning of wisdom is to call things by their proper name. Reviewing what you have learned and learning anew, you are fit to be a teacher. There is only one thing in life which never changes, and it is change. Man who stand on hill with mouth open will wait long time for roast duck to drop in. It is the law of nature that woman should be held under the dominance of man. Virtue is not left to stand alone. He who practices it will have neighbors. A wise man seeks by music to strengthen his soul. The thoughtless one uses it to stifle his fears. Never contract friendship with a man that is not better than thyself. If you want to change the world, first change your heart. A hammer shatters glass, but it also forges steel. A man who has committed a mistake and does not correct it is committing another mistake. Forget injuries, never forget kindnesses. If a man takes no thought about what is distant, he will find sorrow near at hand. Don't complain about the snow on your neighbor's roof when your own doorstep is unclean. There are 3 marks of a superior man. Being virtuous, he is free from anxiety. Being wise, he is free from perplexity. Being brave, he is free from fear. When a wise man points at the moon, the imbecile examines the finger. Signs and symbols rule the world, not words nor laws. To know and not do is to not yet know. Table your mistakes, learn from them, then move on. If you would one day renovate yourself, do so from day to day. Stars are holes in the sky from which the light of the infinite shines. The tongue must be heavy indeed, because so few people can hold it. A bit of fragrance always clings to the hand that gives roses. If you are generous, you will gain everything. Never do to others what you would not like them to do to you. Balance is the perfect state of still water. Let that be our model. It remains quiet within and is not disturbed on the surface. Everyone eats and drinks, yet only few appreciate the taste of food. When people are educated, the distinction between classes disappears. There is one single thread binding my way together. The way of the master consists in doing one's best. That is all. He who wished to secure the good of others has already secured his own. Therefore, the superior man is watchful over himself when he is alone. It is not possible for one to teach others who cannot teach his own family. The superior man is quiet and calm, waiting for the appointments of heaven, while the mean man walks in dangerous paths, looking for lucky occurrences. Look at the means which a man employs, consider his motives, observe his pleasures. A man simply cannot conceal himself. Without knowing the force of words, it is impossible to know more. Study without reflection is a waste of time. Reflection without study is dangerous. Only the wisest and stupidest of men never change. The master was entirely free from four things: prejudice, foregone conclusions, obstinacy, and egoism. Give a man a fish, feed home for a day. Teach a man to fish, feed for a lifetime. The superior man acts before he speaks, and afterwards speaks according to his action. The man who is master of himself drinks gravely and wisely. Study as though you cannot catch up to it, and as though you fear you are going to lose it. The father who does not teach his son his duties is equally guilty with the son who neglects them. Do not use a cannon to kill a mosquito. The one who was born a genius can't win against the one who tries, and the one who tries can't win against the one who enjoys. The people may be put into the way they should go, though they may not be put into the way of understanding it. Man is born for uprightness. If a man lose his uprightness and yet live, his escape from death is mere good fortune. An angry man is full of poison. A man exercising no forethought will soon experience present sorrow. Wisdom is rooted in watching with affection the way people grow. He is the truly courageous man who never desponds. When you see a worthy person, endeavor to emulate him. When you see an unworthy person, then examine your inner self. It is not the failure of others to appreciate your abilities that should trouble you, but rather your failure to appreciate theirs. Every truth has four corners. As a teacher, I give you one corner, and it is for you to find the other three. Rotten wood cannot be carved. Men do not stumble over mountains, but over molehills. A man who reviews the old so as to find out the new is qualified to teach others. The superior man makes the difficulty to be overcome his first interest. Success only comes later. Heaven sends down its good and evil symbols, and wise men act accordingly. It is better to play than do nothing. A man who does not forget an agreement is resolved and honorable man. Return good for good, return evil with justice. The superior man is intelligently, not blindly, faithful. The journey with 1,000 miles begins with one step. Future generation is the most important thing. The man of wisdom is never of two minds. The man of benevolence never worries. The man of courage is never afraid. True knowledge is when one knows the limitations of one's knowledge. An inconvenience is an unrecognized opportunity. Those who make virtue their profession are the ruin of virtue. When frying small fish, disturb them little. Everything has its beauty, but not everyone sees it. To see it, a person only needs to imagine how it could be worse. Learning without thought is labor lost. Thought without learning is perilous. Ask yourself constantly, what is the right thing to do? Behave toward everyone as if receiving a great guest. If one is guided by profit in one's actions, one will incur much ill will. A true gentleman makes demands upon himself, but not upon others. When you are ignorant about something, to know that you are ignorant about it, that is knowledge. Music produces a kind of pleasure which human nature cannot do without. A youth is to be regarded with respect. How do we know that his future will not be equal to our present? You cannot open a book without learning something. If you don't know how to live, why wonder about death? Those who know the truth are not equal to those who love it. If your desire is for good, the people will be good. To be fond of learning is near to wisdom. Have no friends not equal to yourself. Without that innate sense of human worth, a man cannot long endure adversity, nor can he long enjoy prosperity. If I do not participate in the sacrifice, it is as if I did not sacrifice at all. Transport a handful of earth every day, and you will make a mountain. When wealth is centralized, the people are dispersed. When wealth is distributed, the people are brought together. For benefits return benefits, for injuries return justice, without any admixture of revenge. An oppressive government is more to be feared than a tiger. To know everything is to know nothing, but to know nothing is to know everything. A heart set on love will do no wrong. If there were one word that could act as a standard of conduct for one's entire life, perhaps it would be thoughtfulness. If you devote your life to seeking revenge, first dig 2 graves. Without an acquaintance with the rules of propriety, it is impossible for the character to be established. The superior man does what is proper to the station in which he is. He does not desire to go beyond this. Not to alter one's faults is to be faulty indeed. Clever talk and domineering manner have little to do with being a man at his best. He who crosses the ocean twice without washing is a dirty double-crosser. Learning, undigested by thought, is labor lost. Unify your attention. Do not listen with your ears, but with your mind. Do not listen with your mind, but with your essence. If you reflect within yourself and find nothing to be ashamed of, how could you have anxiety or fear? I transmit but do not create. I place my trust in the teachings of antiquity. Do not impose on others what you yourself do not desire. To think twice is quite enough. A gentleman wishes to be slow to speak and quick to act. Those who break down the dikes will themselves be drowned in the inundation. There are 3 degrees of filial piety. The highest is being a credit to our parents. The second is not disgracing them. The lowest is being able simply to support them. Man shoot at nothing, sure to hit it. To be excellent when engaged in administration is to be like the North Star. As it remains in its one position, all the other stars surround it. A blemish may be removed from a diamond by careful polishing, but evil words once spoken cannot be effaced. I followed my heart without breaking any rules. The way of the superior person is threefold: virtuous, they are free from anxieties; wise, they are free from perplexities; and bold, they are free from fear. Men's natures are alike. It is their habits that separate them. Who heeds not the future will find sorrow at hand. With coarse rice to eat, with water to drink, and my bent arm for a pillow, I have still joy in the midst of all these things. When I walk along with 2 others, from at least one I will be able to learn. The man who loves his job never works a day in his life. What is most needed for learning is a humble mind. When strict with oneself, one rarely fails. Be loyal and trustworthy. Do not befriend anyone who is lower than yourself in this regard. Sincerity is the end and beginning of things. Without sincerity, there would be nothing. Learn as if you were not reaching your goal and as though you were scared of missing it. Don't do unto others what you don't want others to do unto you. In vain I have looked for a single man capable of seeing his own faults and bringing the charge home against himself. It cannot be when the root is neglected that what springs from it will be well ordered. If one should desire to know whether a kingdom is well governed, if its morals are good or bad, the quality of its music will furnish the answer. If I cannot get men who steer a middle course to associate with, I would far rather have the impetuous and hasty, for the impetuous at any rate assert themselves. You turn the handle the way it goes, not the way it ought to go. Good people strengthen themselves ceaselessly. Never tire to study and to teach to others. Those whose courses are different cannot lay plans for one another. A lack of patience in trifling matters might lead to the disruption of great project. The superior man, when resting in safety, does not forget that danger may come. The love to wisdom is getting closer to the own bright path. He who speaks without modesty will find it difficult to make his words good. A man should practice what he preaches, but a man should also preach what he practices. A man of wisdom delights in water. Do unto others as you wish others do unto you. All men are born good. First, there must be order and harmony within your own mind. To be fond of learning is near to wisdom. To practice with vigor is near to benevolence, and to be conscious of shame is near to fortitude. He who is harmony with nature hits the mark without effort, and apprehends the truth without thinking. Ignorance is the night of the mind, but a night without moon or star. The superior man thinks always of virtue. The common man thinks of comfort. Hold faithfulness and sincerity as first principles. I have not seen a person who loved virtue, or one who hated what was not virtuous. He who loved virtue would esteem nothing above it. The person of benevolence never worries. It is man that makes truth great, and not truth that makes man great. From the Son of Heaven down to the mass of the people, all must consider the cultivation of the person the root of everything besides. Clever talk can confound the workings of virtue, just as small impatiences can confound great projects. Know what you know and know that you don't know what you don't know. That is the characteristic of one who knows. To study and not think is a waste. To think and not study is dangerous. The faults of a superior person are like the sun and moon. They have their faults, and everyone sees them. They change, and everyone looks up to them. I'd rather die for speaking out than to live and be silent. To understand yourself is the key to wisdom. If I am building a mountain and stop before the last basketful of earth is placed on the summit, I have failed. Time flows away like the water in the river. Every thoughtful pin on Pinterest has beauty, but not everyone can see. Rate the task above the prize. Will not the mind be raised? Fight thine own faults, not the faults of others. Will not evil be mended? Writing cannot express all words. Words cannot encompass all ideas. Fix your mind on truth, hold firm to virtue, rely on loving kindness, and find your recreation in the arts. Better than the one who knows what is right is the one who loves what is right. A common man marvels at uncommon things. A wise man marvels at the commonplace. To know it is not as good as to love it, and to love it is not as good as to take delight in it. There are three things against which the wise man guards: lust when young, quarrels when strong, and covetousness when old. If you don't know the life yet, how could it be possible for you to know the death? The sun and moon shine on all without partiality. He who sling mud lose ground. The superior man is aware of righteousness. The inferior man is aware of advantage. The main object of conciliation lies in reaching a solution to a case based upon morals and with a warm heart. Knowledge is merely brilliance in organization of ideas and not wisdom. The truly wise person goes beyond knowledge. The man of perfect virtue, wishing to be established himself, seeks also to establish others. Wishing to be enlarged himself, he seeks also to enlarge others. The superior person gathers his weapons together in order to provide against the unforeseen. Respect the gods, but have as little to do with them as possible. Some may study side by side and yet be asunder when they come to the logic of things. In antiquity men studied for their own sake. Nowadays men study for the sake of impressing others. Words are the voice of the heart. Who contains himself goes seldom wrong. Seek not every quality in one individual. Those who are firm, enduring, simple, and unpretentious are the nearest to virtue. Don't be concerned that you have no position. Be concerned how you may fit yourself to occupy one. Character is the backbone of our human culture. Music is the flowering of character. Knowing what's correct and not doing it, it's the worst cowardice. The superior man is satisfied and composed. The mean man is always full of distress. Silence is the true friend that never betrays. He who will not economize will agonize. Never hesitate to ask a lesser person. The funniest people are the saddest ones. The most beautiful sight in the world is a little child going confidently down the road of life after you have shown him the way. Think no vice so small that you may commit it, and no virtue so small that you may overlook it. Don't worry about being acknowledged by others. Worry about failing to acknowledge them. Be loyal to yourself, charitable to neighbors, nothing more. Only after winter comes do we know that the pine and the cypress are the last to fade. In a state, pecuniary gain is not to be considered to be prosperity, but its prosperity will be found in righteousness. To lead uninstructed people to war is to throw them away. In a district of 10 families, there must be someone as honorable and sincere as I, but none as fond of learning. A good man regards the root, he fixes the root, and ale else flows out of it. The root is filial piety, the fruit brotherly love. Fine words and an insinuating appearance are seldom associated with true virtue. Settle one difficulty, and you keep 100 away. He who requires much from himself and little from others will keep himself from being the object of resentment. Gravity is only the bark of wisdom's tree, but it preserves it. It is more shameful to distrust our friends than to be deceived by them. The superior man is distressed by the limitations of his ability. He is not distressed by the fact that men do not recognize the ability that he has. Be aroused by poetry, structure yourself with propriety, refine yourself with music. To become a leader, you must first become a human being. Men who want pretty nurse must be patient. When superiors are fond of showing their humanity, inferiors try to outstrip one another in their practice of it. Wisdom, compassion, and courage are the three universally recognized moral qualities of men. Charity, like the sun, brightens every object on which it shines. A fool marvels at rare things, but a wise man at common ones. We should not be too familiar with the lower orders or with women. Everyone calls his son, whether he has talents or has not talents. A gentleman is ashamed to let his words outrun his deeds. She who is born with beauty is born with a sorrow for many a man. Consideration for others is the basis of a good life, a good society. Virtuous people often revenge themselves for the constraints to which they submit by the boredom which they inspire. There has never been a man mean and at the same time virtuous. Never give a sword to a man who can't dance. We should keep the dead before our eyes and honor them as though still living. Let a man be stimulated by poetry, established by the rules of propriety, and perfected by music. The gentleman is calm and at ease. The gentleman is dignified but not proud. The small man is proud but not dignified. True goodness springs from a man's own heart. All men are born good. The superior man is easy to serve, but difficult to please. The inferior man is difficult to serve, but easy to please. Men who eat many prunes get good run for money. The strength of a nation derives from the integrity of the home. The green reed which bends in the wind is stronger than the mighty oak which breaks in a storm. To govern is to correct. If you set an example by being correct, who would dare to remain incorrect? When you see a good man, try to emulate his example, and when you see a bad man, search yourself for his faults. Eat at your own as you would the table of a king. Faithfulness and sincerity are the highest things. From a grain of sand in the pearl comes. In teaching there should be no distinction of classes. The requisites of government are that there be sufficiency of food, sufficiency of military equipment, and the confidence of the people in their ruler. The gentleman prefers to be slow in word but diligent in action. The master said, if out of the 300 songs I had to take one phrase to cover all my teachings, I would say, let there be no evil in your thoughts. A man may not transgress the bounds of major morals, but may make errors in minor morals. A superior man in dealing with the world is not for anything or against anything. He follows righteousness as the standard. A scholar who loves comfort is not fit to be called a scholar. The more people know, the more they forgive. The demands that a great man makes are on himself. Those of a petty man are upon others. One who can move mountains start with the little stones. He who is really good can never be unhappy. He who is really wise can never be perplexed. He who is really brave is never afraid. Make faithfulness and truth thy masters. Have no friends unlike thyself. Be not ashamed to mend thy faults. They must often change who would be constant in happiness or wisdom. Desire to have things done quickly prevents their being done thoroughly. There are 3 unfilial acts. The greatest of these is the failure to produce sons. Ability will never catch up with the demand for it. Sincerity is the way of heaven. The superior man is slow in his words and earnest in his conduct. Look for an occupation that you like, and you will not need to labor for a single day in your life. To be truly happy and contented, you must let go of what it means to be happy or content. If my mind be not engaged in worship, it is as though I worship not. A youth is to be regarded with respect. Just as lavishness leads easily to presumption, so does frugality to meanness. But meanness is a far less serious fault than presumption. In language, clarity is everything. Wisdom delights in water, love delights in hills. Wisdom is stirring, love is quiet. Wisdom is merry, love grows old. Be versed in ancient lore and familiarize yourself with the modern, then may you become teachers. Don't be concerned about others not appreciating you. Be concerned about your not appreciating others. Sincerity and truth are the basis of every virtue. To prefer it is better than to only know it. To delight in it is better than merely to prefer it. A gentleman does not promote a man on account of what he says, nor does he reject sayings, because the speaker is what he is. You do not understand even life. How can you understand death? If a man has no humaneness, what can his propriety be like? If a man has no humaneness, what can his happiness be like? What the wise seek is in themselves. We should feel sorrow, but not sink under its oppression. A gentleman can withstand hardships. It is only the small man who, when submitted to them, is swept off his feet. When one cultivates to the utmost the principles of his nature and exercises them on the principle of reciprocity, he is not far from the path. A man living without conflicts, as if he never lives at all. Wisdom, humanity, and courage, these 3 are universal virtues. The way by which they are practiced are one. Benevolence is the characteristic element of humanity. Go before the people with your example, and be laborious in their affairs. Looking at small advantages prevents great affairs from being accomplished. The injury of prodigality leads to this, that he who will not economize will have to agonize. The highest kind of man is the one who does before talking and practices what he professes. Respect the gods and the devils, but keep them at a distance. To be poor without murmuring is difficult. To be rich without being proud is easy. The firm, the enduring, the simple, and the modest are near to virtue. The scholar does not consider gold and jade to be precious treasures, but loyalty and good faith. Ah, music, sacred tongue of God, I hear thee calling and I come. A superior man is one who is free from fear and anxieties. It doesn't make a difference how gradually you go so long as you don't stop. The expectations of life depend upon diligence. The mechanic that would perfect his work must first sharpen his tools. To find the Tao, there is nowhere you need to search. If it is not inside you, it is not the Tao. A man without a mustache is a man without a soul. The superior man governs men according to their nature, with what is proper to them, and as soon as they change what is wrong, he stops. Watch their actions, observe their motives, examine wherein they dwell content. Won't you know what kind of person they are? Justice is like the North Star, which is fixed, and all the rest revolve about it. If one learns from others, but does not think, one will be bewildered. If, on the other hand, one thinks but does not learn from others, one will be in peril. Learn as if never overtaking your object, and yet as if apprehensive of losing it. The real fault is to have faults and not amend them. The way out is through the door. Why is it that no one will use this method? A truly great man never puts away the simplicity of a child. The man of humanity delights in mountains. Love should start from people close to us, then be extended to other people, to strangers, and eventually to the world. To err and not reform, this may indeed be called error. I am not bothered by the fact that I am not understood. I am bothered when I do not know others. He who keeps danger in mind is he who will rest safe in his seat. He who keeps ruin in mind is he who will preserve his interests secure. The superior man undergoes 3 changes. Looked at from a distance, he appears stern. When approached, he is mild. When he is heard to speak, his language is firm and decided. It is when those who are not strong enough have made some moderate amount of progress that they fail and give up. If you think in terms of a year, plant a seed. If in terms of 10 years, plant trees. If in terms of 100 years, teach the people. Heaven gives long life to the just and the intelligent. Women and people of low birth are very hard to deal with. If you are friendly to them, they get out of hand, and if you keep your distance, they resent it. The way is not for, but from, man. If we take the way as something superhuman, beyond man, this is not the real way. I have yet to meet a man as fond of high moral conduct as he is of outward appearances. Conscience is the inner voice which warns us that someone might be looking. Hear and you forget, see and you remember, do and you understand. To learn without thinking is labor in vain. To think without learning is desolation. He who is really kind can never be unhappy. I live in a very small house, but my windows look out on a very large world.